Maybe they are not talking. Prabhuji, would you like to do the Mangla Charan or should I do the Mangla?
Yeah, I can do, no problem.
Okay, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. 1 second, just. I'm coming to my seat.
Yes, no problem.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, it is okay. Ongagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Shakyorunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishnam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Shupadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavansha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Shahagana Raghunathwa Nitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Shahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Radha Krishna Padana Shahagana Lalita Vishakhanitanksha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarurvyasya Kripa Sindhobhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for doing the Mangla Charan so lovingly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was like nectar to the ears compared to what I do. I think yours was so beautiful. Okay, Hare Krishna, everybody. Hare Krishna, Panchali Mataji, Danvat Pranam. Please accept our humble obeisances on behalf of everybody who have joined the group and are about to join. Mataji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 2, Chapter 6, and the text for today is text 39. And I hand over to you, Mataji. Feel free to ask us to read anything if you wanted us to. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much, Mataji, for giving me the opportunity to do this service. I quite agree with you. Prabhuji did the Mangla Charan so nicely. I was only able to listen to the last bit, but it was so much connected, Prabhuji. Thank you. We are doing verse 39. So if anyone wants to read it, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Path Prabhu, will you be able to read the verse? Because you read it so nicely. It will be a
Two-
learning 39,
two-
2.6.39. If you can
Okay,
read
okay.
the Sanskrit and read it slowly, and then if we can repeat after you so that we can learn how to say it as well.
Okay, Mataji. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I open the book now. Yeah, that's nice. So it is a Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, and text number is 39. Okay. Purusha Sukta confirmed. Okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Saesādya Purusha
Sa Esha Adhyay Purusha
Kalpe Kalpe Srujatyajah
Kalpe Kalpe Srijatah Ajaha
Atmatmanyatmanam
Atmamani Atmanam
Sasanyayati Pati cha
Sasamyachati Pati cha
Saesadhyah Purusha
Sa Esha Adya Purusha
Kalpe Kalpe Srujatyajah
Kalpe Kalpe Srijatajaha
Atmatmanyatmanyam
Atmana Nam
Sasanyayati Pati cha
Samyachati Pati cha
Saesadhyah Purusha
Sa Esha Adya Purusha
Kalpe Kalpe Srujatyajah
Kalpe Kalpe Srijatajaha
Atmatmatyatmamatmanyam
Atmana Atmanam
Sasanyayati Pati cha.
Samyachati Pati cha. Hare Krishna. Over to you, Mataji. Thank you very much, Path Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare
you very much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. So Krishna, I'll
Hare.
quickly read the translation and then we'll start with the discussion. So translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. That supreme original personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, expanding his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, the first incarnation, creates this manifested cosmos, but he is unborn. The creation, however, takes place in him, and the material substance and the manifestations are all himself. He maintains them for some time and absorbs them into himself again. Purport: the creation is non-different from the Lord, and he is, and still he is not in the creation. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita 9.4 as follows. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matstani sarva bhutani nachaham teshvastitaha avastitaha. The impersonal conception of the absolute truth is also a form of the Lord called Avyakta Murti. Murti means form, but because his impersonal feature is inexplicable to our limited senses, he is the Avyakta Murti form. And in that inexplicable form of the Lord, the whole creation is resting. Or, in other words, the whole creation is the Lord himself. And the creation is also non-different from him. But simultaneously, he, as the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is aloof from the created manifestation. The impersonalist gives stress to the impersonal form or feature of the Lord and does not believe in the original personality of the Lord, but the Vaishnavas accept the original form of the Lord, of whom the impersonal form is merely one of the features. The impersonal and personal conceptions of the Lord are existing simultaneously, and this fact is clearly described both in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and also in other Vedic scriptures. Inconceivable to human intelligence, the idea must simply be accepted on the authority of the scriptures, and it can only be practically realized by the progress of devotional service unto the Lord, and never by mental speculation or inductive logic. The impersonalists depend more or less on inductive logic, and therefore they always remain in darkness about the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Their conception of Krishna is not clear, although everything is clearly mentioned in all the Vedic scriptures. A poor fund of knowledge cannot comprehend the existence of an original personal form of the Lord when he is expanded in everything. This imperfectness is due more or less to the material conception that a substance distributed widely in parts can no longer exist in the original form. The original personality of Godhead, Adya Govinda, expands himself as the Mahavishnu incarnation and rests in the causal ocean, which he himself creates. The Brahma Samhita 5.47 confirms this as follows. Ya Karana Nava Jale Bhajati Sma Yoga Nidram Ananta Jagat Anda Sarana Kripaha Adhara Shaktim Avalambya Param Swamurtim Govindam Adipurusham Tam Aham Bhajami. Apologies for my Sanskrit pronunciation. Lord Brahmaji says in his Brahma Samhita, I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who lies down in the causal ocean in his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, with all the universes generating from the pores of hair on his transcendental body, and who accepts the mystic slumber of eternity. So this Mahavishnu is the first incarnation in the creation, and from him all the universes are generated and all material manifestations are produced, one after the other. The causal ocean is created by the Lord as the Mahatattva, as a cloud in the spiritual sky, and is only a part of his different manifestations. The spiritual sky is an expansion of his personal rays, and he is the Mahatattva cloud also. He lies down and generates the universes by his breathing, and again by entering into each universe as Garbhodaksha Vishnu. He creates Brahma, Shiva, and many other demigods for maintenance of the universe, and again absorbs the whole thing into his person, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 9.7. Sarva Bhutani Konteya Praktrim Yanti Mamikam Kalpashaye Punastani Kalpadau Vishvachami Aham. O son of Kunti, when the kalpa or the duration of the life of Brahma is ended, then all the created manifestations enter into my prakriti or energy. And again, when I desire, the same creation takes place by my personal energy. The conclusion is that there are all but displays of the Lord's inconceivable personal energies, of which no one can have any full information. This point we have already discussed. Hare Krishna. Namaste Saraswati Devi. जैसे कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Thank you very much again for giving me the opportunity to do the service. I start discussing this with my prayers to my Guru and all the Gurus and all the seniors who are present and here today. If I do make any mistakes, please do correct me. Hare Krishna. So this is a verse we've entered into Canto 2. This is the chapter where we are being told about the first Purusha incarnation, Karanadakshari Vishnu, and it is the cosmic manifestation. So far, we have learned about how towards the end of the last chapter, Narad Muni started he was asking Lord Brahma a few questions, and then Lord Brahma is answering the questions to Narad Muni. And as we have learned so far, right at the beginning of this chapter, because Narad Muni is so very merciful, he is himself an enlightened soul, but he is asking the questions to Lord Brahma so that for the benefit of all of us, all the sages that are on there and all who's listening to this information again and gaining the knowledge and trying to understand Lord Krishna. And we have seen how Lord Brahma, he's glorified the Lord towards the beginning, and he's slowly answering the questions and giving answers to the questions of of Narad Muni, and explaining to Narad Muni as to why he, Lord Brahma, is not the primary creator of this universe, but he is actually the secondary creator of this universe. And he's merely acting on the instructions and the knowledge given to him or imparted to him by the Lord himself. So this verse is very interesting because it has two parts in it. The information that we gain from this verse has been mentioned to us many times, previously when we went through the Bhagavad Gita, and also in previous parts of Srimad Bhagavatam so far. It's reiterating the fact about the position of the Lord, of how the Lord is everywhere, and we are all within the Lord. Is nothing is outside the Lord. So everything, the whole of creation, the whole of cosmos exists within the Lord and is created by him. So it's further reiterating this fact again. And also going into a bit towards the end, going into a bit more again around how the Lord created the universe from, or the material universe, and a bit about Mahatattva. So I've just, reading through the verses, I've broken it up into the first and the second part. So the first part of this verse talks about, and also explained in the purport, talks about three main primary things. Firstly, that that the Lord cannot be understood by just normal people. The Lord is in his unmanifested form, or as is described over here in the purport, as Avyaktamurti. So it's the impersonal conception, or the Lord in his unmanifested form, who cannot be perceived. So that is the first thing that is pointed to in this verse. Secondly, that all beings are in the Lord. Every single thing, all living entities, all, whether they're living, non-living, everything is within the Lord. And thirdly, that although everything is within the Lord is aloof. The Lord is not engaged into all of this. The Lord himself is aloof. So firstly, the Lord cannot be understood through, just normal eyes. The Lord is unmanifested to us. Secondly, then everything exists within the Lord or comes from him. And thirdly, the Lord is aloof from all. Although everything exists within him, the Lord himself is aloof from all of this. Now, these are points that we have touched upon several times before as well. But let's see what is being said over here again. So it's almost, when we say the first thing that the Lord cannot be understood. Why cannot we understand the Lord? As we know, our body and our senses, they are material. We are in the material world. And how can material senses and matter, how can matter perceive something something spiritual? And not just spiritual, the supreme spirit, the supreme spiritual person, the personality of Godhead. So it's a very easy answer. How can we assume that we, with our material senses and material body and material eyes, can actually understand Lord? So when the Lord says that the first line of the purport, which says the impersonal conception of the absolute truth is avyakta, is called the avyakta murti, and murti means form, but because its impersonal feature is inexplicable to our limited senses, he is avyakta murti. And in that impersonal, inexplicable form, the Lord and the whole creation is resting. So the first thing is that Lord is inexplicable and he cannot be understood. But it doesn't end here, because what it also says is that the Lord can be understood. The Lord can be understood, but how can he be understood? It's the same thread that runs throughout the Shastras. The Lord can only be understood through bhakti. Only if one's eyes are anointed with love and devotion for the Lord, he can see Krishna everywhere. So just as, with our eyes, we cannot see Krishna. But if someone is a pure devotee, that pure devotee sees Krishna within him, outside him, anywhere and everywhere. Prahlad Maharaj saw Krishna, or saw Narayan, saw Lord Narasimhadev inside a pillar. So you can see Krishna anywhere and everywhere as long as you have the eyes for it. So once one is in pure bhakti, the Lord himself reveals himself to that pure bhakta or that pure devotee from within, in such a way that he manifests himself in such a way that the devotee is able to see the Lord anywhere and everywhere. So that avyakta murti, that the form which is not seen by normal eyes, or which the impersonalists think as the Lord being formless, is not something that the devotees agree to. And this is what is being mentioned in this verse as well, that this formless feature of the Lord is only for people who cannot see the Lord. But for a pure devotee, he understands the Lord, he can see the Lord anywhere and everywhere. Okay, so the unmanifested form of the Lord is for the general people, and the manifested form of the Lord is for the pure devotees. So there was once, there was once a very, very pure devotee who lived in Vrindavan, and he thought of Lord Krishna as one of his sons. So he had 7 sons, and he thought the Lord to be his 8th son. So one day a jeweler came to him, and he said to the jeweler, "So go, go and see my daughters-in-law, and see what they want to buy from you, and give them show them nice jewelry, and give them and they will be buying jewelry from you." So the jeweler went inside, and then he sat and he gave jewelry to the wives, to the daughters-in-law, and he came outside, and then he asked for money. And then this man, the devotee, he said, "Okay, fine. So I've got 7 daughters-in-law, so I'll pay you money. So what did they take? And just tell me, and I'll pay you the money." And then the jeweler said, "But no, why are you saying that? You haven't got 7 daughters-in-law. You've got 8 daughters-in-law." And this man said, "But no, I've got 7 sons and I've got 7 daughters-in-law. Why are you saying this?" And there was this argument, and then the jeweler went away saying, "You've paid me less. I gave jewelry to 8 of them, and you only paid for 7." So that night, the Lord came into the dreams of this devotee, and not just the Lord, not just Krishna. Along with him came someone who was always with Krishna, and who else but Radharani. And then Radharani said, "If you think of him as your son, how can you not buy jewelry from me? How can you even think that I am someone detached from, not with Krishna? And if he is your son, then why am I not your daughter-in-law? Because we are not separate." So this is someone seeing the Lord as himself, someone who can see the Lord even when the Lord isn't there. And even if the devotee doesn't want to see him, the Lord himself ensures that he is there to be seen. So this is how the Lord manifests himself to a pure devotee, and the devotee can see the Lord, whereas to others, the Lord cannot be seen with their material senses. So then we come to the second point, where it's mentioned that the Lord is everything is within me. Everything is within the Lord. However, I myself am aloof from all of that. I am not here. I am not engaged in this. Now, this sounds like a riddle. How does that happen? The Lord is saying that, everything rests within me. And yet immediately the Lord is saying that, I am not attached to any of this. And he said that several times. He says that to Arjuna as well in the Bhagavad Gita. He said that to us in the Srimad Bhagavatam previously, and he's reiterating that again in this verse. So what exactly does that mean? That all beings are in me. Now, one way of looking into it is that the Lord has innumerable number of energies. And these energies, that primarily they can be clubbed into, they fall into 3 main categories. The first one being the internal energy, which expands in the spiritual world in all its variety. So the internal energy of the Lord creates the whole of the spiritual world, which is 3/4 of the creation, as we have learned before. And again, that itself is again further divided into the Samvit, which is the knowledge part of the energy, the Sandini, which is the potency that is around eternal existence, and obviously the Ladini Shakti, or the energy which gives pure pleasure and bliss. So the Sat Chit Ananda of the Lord is again seen through the spiritual energy, which is also present in us, but we'll come to that in a minute. So that is the internal energy of the Lord. The other is the external energy of the Lord, which is everything that is material and matter. Okay, and all, you know, within it exists all the objects, all the things that make up the matter, the material senses, the material world, the laws of material nature, the material bodies. All of these are present in the external energy, and which is really a tiny bit of the Lord's energy, because the material world is only a fourth of, it's 1/4 of the Lord's creation. But the main thing is these material energies, they are by themselves, by nature, they are inert. They do not have the ability to do anything unless they are run by or governed by or activated by a spirit. So you see, you have a pen, but unless that pen is held up by a body, which is again being governed by the spirit soul, that pen in itself will not be able to do anything. So the material energy is inert by nature, and to work, it must be moved by the spirit or the spiritual energy. So again, as we know, this material energy is also divided into the 3 modes of material nature: mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. And because we are talking about cosmic manifestation, we are talking about creation, these modes of nature are important. We have touched upon this in the previous verses, but it is also touched upon slightly towards the end of this verse. Now, the third type, as we know, is the marginal energy. And the marginal energy consists of the spirit souls, the jivas, who are in their real form, in their pure form. They are always, because they are part of the Lord, their nature is also Sat Chit and Ananda. They are also pure. However, in this material world, they become conditioned. And because they are conditioned, they are overpowered and overcome by the material energy. But because they are spirit souls, they are called the marginal energy or Tatashta Shakti of the Lord. Why? Because they have the ability to choose. They come from the independent Lord. They are part of the Lord who is independent. So because they're part of the Lord, even in the tiniest of the spirit soul, there is that nature of the Lord, a little bit of independence, and they want to be free and Lord over themselves. So this, however, with this free will, with this free choice of theirs, they can either choose to go up to the spiritual world and return back to Godhead, or they can be dragged down. They can choose material energy, and they can be dragged down into life after life after life of birth, death, old age, and disease. But because they have this choice, they are in the marginal position. They are the marginal energy. So we see that the Lord has these energies. Now, the purport says that the Lord has innumerable energies, and it's like the sun and the sunshine. So just as the sunshine cannot be separated from the sun, just as the wind, as is given in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 9, just as the wind, which is all over the sky, cannot be separated from the sky itself, similarly, the Lord and his energies can never be separated. So when we are being told that everything rests within the Lord, that is because everything is created through these energies of the Lord. The spiritual world is created through the spiritual energy of the Lord. The Lord himself does not, he only has to will. He doesn't have to do anything. He only has to will it. His energies do the work. So with the spiritual energies, he creates the spiritual world. With his material energies, he creates the material world. And he has his marginal energy. So by saying that the Lord, everything rests within the Lord, it's not wrong to say that, you know, the entire existence is within the Lord. Why? Because they're all created by the various energies, which again all come from the Lord. And the Lord, the Shaktiman, cannot be separated from the energies of the Shakti. They are the same, just like the sun cannot be separated from the sunshine or the sunlight. So we cannot separate the Lord from these energies. Does it make sense? So that is what the Lord means by saying that everything is within me. And everything is resting on me because everything is resting on his energies. So the statement that, you know, it kind of makes sense over here. Now, to make this more easy for us to understand, the Lord gives the example to Mother Yashoda. So what does the Lord do? The Lord eats dirt. And by eating dirt, and then, you know, he tries to say it's not, when Mother Yashoda gets very, very agitated and, you know, nervous that what is going to happen to my little baby boy because he's eaten dirt, the Lord opens his mouth, and within his mouth, Mother Yashoda sees the entire creation. So the Lord again explains in his own way that everything rests within him and is all in him. So this is what the verses was trying to say. But again, it also says that the Lord says that although everything rests in me, I am not in them. I am aloof. I do not get engaged into this. And how is that possible? Now, some people think that because Krishna is everywhere, he has no form. So just like, you know, the sunshine. So the sunshine, one might ask that, you know, on one hand, you're saying that there is no difference between the sun, the sunshine and the sun's rays and the Lord and the sun. So there's no difference between the Lord and his energies. So he is everywhere. So if he is everywhere, some people, especially the impersonalists or the Mayavadis, they are of the idea that because the Lord is everywhere, he is formless. Just like water, you know, it flows everywhere, so it doesn't necessarily have to have a form. And it takes the form of any object or any vessel that it gets itself into. If you have the water in a cup, that's the form it takes, or in a glass, or in a, you know, whichever, if it's in the form of ice, or in liquid form, or in gas form. So it does not have a form of its own. And that is what the Lord, because the Lord is everywhere, he does not have a form. But this is not what is being said to us. Devotees do not believe in that. Devotees go through what is said in the Shastras, in the books. Now, we are said in the purport that it is impossible to know the Lord just through knowledge. You cannot understand the Lord just through Jnana Yoga, nor can you understand the Lord just through Karma Yoga. Or, you know, it's impossible. You can be an Ashtanga yogi, you can be perfect in knowledge, but you cannot understand the Lord unless it is through pure bhakti. So by thinking, if the impersonalists think that the Lord is formless, they are wrong to think so, because the actual form of the Lord is given to the devotees by the Lord himself, and the devotees believe what is given in the books. that Krishna can be anywhere and everywhere, but in his distinct form. He can take different incarnations. He can take the form of Narasimhadev or, Narayana with 4 hands, but that is his original form. His original form is the 2-handed form in Golok Vrindavan, but his incarnations, they also have a definite form, a definite form. So Krishna was personally present in all the 16,108 palaces of the 16,108 wives, all at the same time. Within his form, in his original form. Krishna was there with every single gopi during the Ras Leela. Krishna was there when Lord Brahma abducted all the cowherd boys and the calves. Krishna himself expanded to become every single of those cowherd boys and the calves with their form, with the definite form. So to say that Krishna is formless is a wrong thing, because the devotee knows that Krishna has a definite form. But how can we explain the fact that Krishna is saying that I am everywhere, however, I am not anywhere, I am aloof from everything? And the purport, in the purport, Prabhupada describes that it is just like, and in also in chapter 9 in Bhagavad Gita, because the purport also quotes a few verses from chapter 9 of the Bhagavad Gita, where in the purpose of there, Prabhupada also describes that it is just like in a government, there's the king, and the king or the prime minister or the president, they have their own government, and there is a law in the country. And if the law is given, or if a law applies to a part of the land and a different law applies to a different part of the land, or the same law applies everywhere, these laws are applied everywhere by the orders of the king, and they are being maintained and ensured that these laws are being followed everywhere by the representatives of the Lord. So by the representatives of the king or the president or the prime minister. So the president or the prime minister do not necessarily have to be present in every single part of the country themselves, because their representatives, or in this case, if we think of the Lord to be the king of everything, the whole cosmos, his representatives or his energies are doing the work in the various parts as has been assigned to them. So the Lord, although he is controlling everything, and everything is happening due to all the things created by him, he personally does not have to be in touch with all of those things. He can still stay aloof because his energies or his representatives are doing the work. So although he is everywhere, but he can still, and he has a form, he can still be aloof from all of that, because he doesn't necessarily have to get in touch with all of them. His energies, the various energies are doing that. In the material world, it's the Maya doing it. In the spiritual world, it's the spiritual energies working. But over here, we are concentrating primarily on the material world and the energies in the material world, that the Lord is spiritual in nature. And although the material energies and everything emanates from the Lord and is part of the Lord never ever gets in touch with the material energy. He doesn't need to be there to do that, because that is being done by his external energy, Maya. So we understand that firstly, what it says is that, the Lord does have a form. So the avyaktamurti, or, the formlessness, what that we are being told in this verse, does not apply to the devotee, because the devotee understands the form, the personal form of the Lord. To a devotee, the Lord manifests himself. But the Lord is unmanifested to a non-devotee. A non-devotee cannot see the Lord. And the Lord can only be seen in his form, not as a formless person, but as a form of someone having a form by devotion only, not through knowledge, not through karma. Secondly, the Lord is everywhere. He is everywhere, and all and everything rests within him. But thirdly, the Lord is not attached to any of these things. He doesn't have to be attached to any of these things. Okay, so this is the first thing that is mentioned in the first part of the verse, and the purpose about the Lord. So what we to as a conclusion to this first part, all we need to remember is that the impersonalists depend on the inductive or the inducive knowledge of, or inductive knowledge, or rather, they think through their minds. But we have to remember that even the mind and the intellect, they are also material in nature, and the Lord cannot be understood by the material. Okay. However, the devotees can understand the Lord. But coming into the second part of the purport, and I'm aware it's only 10 minutes left, so Lord Brahma is again explaining to Narad Muni about the fact, and I read the second part of the verse where it says that the creation takes place in him, and the material substance and manifestations are all himself, as we understood. They all rest within him. The last sentence says of the verse says he maintains them for some time and absorbs them into himself again. So the last sentence of the verse talks about how the Lord creates, maintains, and again annihilates them. And there is reference to the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita again, where the Lord talks about the creation and and how that is done. Now, through our previous discussions, we have understood that the first incarnation, the first Purusha avatar is Mahavishnu, or Karnadaksha Vishnu. And the Lord, and why does what is the primary what's the purpose of the Purusha avatars? The Lord has given the task of creating the material world, or the material creation rests on the Purusha avatars, first through Karnadaksha Vishnu, and then through Garvadaksha and Shiradaksha Vishnus. And we've understood in the previous verses or in the previous discussions, that whenever the jivas who want to, or the spirit souls who rebelled and who wanted to go away from the Lord, they all are collected, and it's as if they are put into a pocket, that all of them are put into the pocket, a plastic pocket, and that all of these jivas, they want to live their own life. Now we understand that the whole creation of the Lord rests on the single word bhakti, or love. Everything that the Lord does is out of pure love. So the fact that these jivas wanted to stay separately from the Lord, all the Lord wanted to give them was love. And so and make them understand so that they return to him. Now, to make them understand what the reality is, and also to give them what they want out of pure love, the Lord creates all the material things that is required for these jivas to live in this material world. So there is the spiritual sky, and in that spiritual sky, the Lord creates all the material things that are required to create that material world. And it is like a small cloud in the whole spiritual sky. So we know the material world is only a tiny section. So this cloud, as we have again discussed previously, in its unmanifested, in its dormant state, in its state of equilibrium, it is called Pradhan. And then the Lord Mahavishnu glances at it, and as soon as Mahavishnu glances at Pradhan, so with Pradhan we understood previously that it has all the necessary ingredients to start off with creation, but it does not have the capacity to do so because it's all in its very, very dormant state. So as soon as the Lord glances at Pradhan and agitates that material, all those material things in their dormant state, they are agitated. And as soon as they are agitated, creation starts. Now, there is a little bit of other complications going on during this agitation. So first of all, there is the glance of the Lord. What is this glance of the Lord? So then we go back to, our discussions on who is Sadashiva. So as we know, there is one of the, a direct expansion of Krishna, we are told in the Puranas, in Vayu Purana, it is told that Sadashiva is a direct expansion of Lord Krishna, and he lives in one of the Vaikuntha planets, and his wife is Ramadevi. But this Sadashiva comes, and Ramadevi, his wife is Ramadevi, who is an expansion. She's a form of Lakshmi. So in the material world, we have this Sadashiva coming in his incarnation as Shiva. Through that glance is nobody but Lord Shiva as Shambhu, who is an incarnation of Sadashiva, who is a direct expansion of Lord Krishna. So we see that glance through Mahavishnu is actually Lord Shiva, who is able to touch Mother Earth, who is nobody but an expansion, or the material expansion of Ramadevi or Mother Lakshmi. Mother Lakshmi, who is again an expansion from the spiritual. All the Shaktis come from Radharani. So Radharani is, all the Lakshmis are direct expansions of Radharani. So we see in the material world, Lord Shiva and Mother Nature. So through the glance, through Lord Shiva, those material objects or the Mother Nature, or the Mother Durga is agitated, and the material Pradhan is impregnated with the jivas, with time, and not just the spirit souls, but also the karmas and the desires that came along with those with those spirit souls from their previous births. So all of this together becomes the Mahatattva, and from that creation starts. Now, this is just talking about it in literally 10 seconds. It's a whole process, but we've only been talked about very, very briefly in this verse. So we will have further discussions on it as we go along the verses. But as of now, we understand that, yes, so this is the, from Pradhan, as soon as it's agitated, the Lord impregnates through his glance Pradhan, it becomes a Pratva, and then that gives rise to the three, there's the material creation starts, the three modes of material nature, again, which starts everything, which we will go into details in further verses. But what this what this verse concludes with is that, we have the Lord says that all of this creation, he first says that everything rests within me, I am detached from everything. But remember, he ends the verse with saying that all of this creation is done through me, through my Purusha Avatara, who is lying on the causal ocean. Through his glance, he creates he impregnates the material world, and as he breathes in and out through every single pore of his body, innumerable number of universes are created. And in each of those universes, there's the further expansion of Mahavishnu or Karnadaksha Vishnu. He further expands into Garbhodaksha Vishnu, who enters into each of those universes. And from there, we know that, from the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, there's a lotus stem that goes up, and then Lord Brahma takes birth over there. So, and all of this creation, the Lord is saying that, the Lord Brahma is saying that, that is during one day of, there's a whole day of Lord Brahma, there's 12 hours of a day of Lord Brahma, and there's 12 hours of night. And then there's 100 years of Lord Brahma, and then all of this, sorry, I'm just muddling it up because there's just so much information. So all that has been said in this verse is that the Lord maintains it. He creates the world, maintains it. Lord Brahma lives for 100 years, and there are the calculations below. Lord Brahma lives for 100 years, and after that 100 years, the whole creation is, material creation is annihilated again by the will of the Lord. So he creates, he maintains, and he annihilates. In every single of these creations, he creates. The secondary creator is Lord Brahma. He maintains through Vishnu, and then annihilates through Lord Shiva. And that has been said in the last sentence of this verse, that I am, I am the creator of everything, but also remember the fact that I not only create, but I also maintain, and when it is necessary, I also annihilate, and then that gives rise to that gives the opportunity, and that gives rise to another age of the, another cycle of creation. Now in the next verses, or we will come across how we do calculate, or there is how do we understand this whole creation in terms of time, because when Mahatvatva is happens, through that glance of Lord Mahavishnu, time is also injected. And because time is injected, the whole secondary creation by Lord Brahma is again dependent on time. So Lord Brahma, he lives for 100 years. Each day of Lord Brahma, we have 14 manvantaras, and we will know what are the manvantaras. We will come across the Divya Yuga or the Chatur Yuga. We'll come across, how or when this Lord Krishna comes as himself, in which manvantara, in which of these Chatur Yugas, but we will come across all of this in the later verses in more details. So to conclude, I'm sorry I've gone over time. To conclude to today's verse, it is the Lord emphasizing, it is Lord Brahma emphasizing once again that he is the secondary creator. The primary creator is none other than Lord Krishna, who again comes as his expansion of the Purusha avatar. The first Purusha avatar, Mahavishnu or Karnadaksha Vishnu, who in turn is the primary cause of creation. He is present everywhere. Everything in the material universe rests within him. However, he is aloof from all of that, and ultimately, when he wants to, he creates, he maintains them, and by his will, the entire creation is also annihilated, and that gives rise to another creation cycle. So apologies for all the mistakes made. It's a bit of a technical verse, and I do apologize because I think because there's too much information, I was kind of it got a bit muddled towards the end. If there's any correction, please do correct me. Apologies. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, thank you so much for taking us through this technical verse. I have a few questions, Mataji, just for my own clarification. So, who gives the glance to Pradhan? Is it Mahavishnu or Karanadaksha Vishnu? Who glances over Pradhan?
So Mahavishnu is Karnadaksha Vishnu.
So they are the same.
Yeah. Yes, so
And
he glances, yeah. But the glance is actually, it's in the form of, the glance is called to be, it's Lord Shiva, because Karnadaksha Vishnu, he cannot touch Mother Earth, because he is aloof and he's spiritual in nature, but Lord Shiva can. So the Sadashiva in the spiritual world, who is again an expansion of Krishna, he incarnates as Shambhu, Shiva, and he gets in touch through that glance is Shiva, who can touch Mother Earth and impregnate Mother Earth. And because of that, all the jivas and all the souls, they get the bodies of through their desires, etc. But the creation, the spirit souls are agitated, and the creation happens. Yeah.
So the spirit, so the Lord does not get touched by the material and energy, but when he comes as in the form of Krishna or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Ram, then he comes into this material world. And does he then get touched by the material energy
He's never ever touched by. He's always aloof. And even when he comes as Krishna, directly as Krishna or Mahaprabhu, or even in his incarnations, he comes in his spiritual form. He never comes. The impersonalists, they think that, to them, when the Lord comes into this material world, the Lord comes under the material nature and he takes a form. They think that the Lord is formless. To come into this material world, the Lord takes a form. And because the Lord comes into this material world, takes a form, the Lord comes under the material energy. However, Shastras tells us, and devotees know, that the Lord has a form. And when the Lord comes into this material world, he comes out of his own will. And he controls the material energy. It's not the other way around. So when he comes in his form, he stays in his spiritual form. He does not touch material energy in anywhere or any form. If he needs to touch, that is where we have Lord Shiva. And that is why we say Lord Shiva is the father and Mother Durga is the mother of this this material world. I don't know if that makes sense, Mataji.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Two more questions, very technical again. So you said the Taksha Shakti, which is the marginal energy. So the spiritual and the internal energy and the external energy, what are they called in Sanskrit? This is the marginal is the Taksha, but what is the
energy? So the superior energy. What's this called? I knew that. Maybe Parth Prabhu can say. So the superior energy or the inferior energy.
And inferior is called Parashakti and Aparashakti.
Parashakti.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes, thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes.
And one last question,
Prabhuji,
Mataji.
please do correct me if I'm going wrong in any technical thing.
No, Mataji, it's okay. Very nice, fine.
So, one last question before I open it up. This Parashakti, which is the spiritual, which is the internal energy of the Lord, is divided into three, which is Samvit, Sadhani, and Aladhani. Aladhani is the pleasure potency. Can you please explain me what Samvit and Sadhani is? I'm getting confused there.
Samvit. The Samvit, so it's Sat Chit Ananda. Okay, so Samvit is the knowledge part of it.
So what is the knowledge?
Knowledge is so the Lord is the identity of the Lord is Sat Chit and Ananda. So the Lord is made up of eternal knowledge and bliss. So Sat is the eternity of it, and that Sat part of that is the Sandini Shakti of the from that internal energy, spiritual internal energy. The Sandini part is the essential potency of the eternal existence, because the Lord is eternal. Then you have the Samvit, which is the knowledge, because the Lord is complete in knowledge. And then is the Ladini Shakti, which is the bliss, and we know Radharani is the Ladini Shakti. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mataji, for that clarification. Any other questions or comments before we have overtaken by time? But any questions or comments by the group? If there are no questions or comments, I'll hand over to Parth Prabhu. Parth Prabhu, is it possible for you to end the session for today? Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for your nice and super class. It's very nice. So simply you understanding the creation, how his God enters and how he pregnant, all the things, and also all the energies of the God, how he's maintaining this one and creating that one also. Thank you very much. Also, I thanks all the devotees who is joining in this forum. I requested everyone, please unmute yourself and chant Hare Krishna mantra for our grace, Panchali Kar Mataji, for her wonderful class. Please join everyone. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Vancha
Kalpataruvyascha Kripasin
Patitanam Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna Panchali Kar Mataji ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And apologies if I've made any mistakes. Thank you, Prabhuji, for correcting me. And thank you, Prabhuji.
Even in the Shastra, if it is a mistake also, it is a purification, it's no problem.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I'm learning. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Very good.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.